For nearly 2 years, Rick and Morty fans patiently waited for news on Season 3. Finally, on April Fool's 2017, they were blessed with the first episode of the newest season. While fans were grateful to finally see the season premiere, the wild episode left its audience to create theories about what's to come in the next season. These theories cover Rick and Morty as a whole, but also give an idea of what's to come for the long-anticipated Season 3. Keep in mind this list was written prior to July 30th, so some theories may already be debunked by new episodes. Number 15. Rick created the Galactic Federation. During the long Rick and Morty hiatus, creators published stories on Snapchat and Instagram, which led viewers to a Tumblr page. The page was designed to look like a private interface for Gromflamites and alien government officials. In this site, viewers could check the status of galactic prisoners, read BuzzFeed-esque articles about the new Earth, and the Twitter accounts of officials and celebrities. This creation serves two purposes for current theories. The first purpose is that it disregards the idea that episode 301 is a simulation, dream, or prank. Why would creators put this much work into showing viewers the alien-infested Earth if they plan to explore it during the season? It would make sense that this was created because they knew they'd be knocking out the Galactic Federation in the first episode. While some aliens may still be on Earth after the government's collapse, life won't be fuzzy BuzzFeed articles and tweets. The second and perhaps most important purpose this site serves is that it gives viewers some insight into Rick's past. In episode 210, The Wedding Squanchers, it was revealed that Rick, Birdperson, and Squanchy were important rebels against the Galactic Federation and their oppressive nature.
You know, you're not being very supportive of Birdperson on his big day.
Birdperson's big day, Morty, was at Blood Ridge on Glapflap's third moon against the Gromflamites. This is a losing battle.
The road your father and I walk together is soaked deeply with the blood of both friends and enemies.
Must be an Aeon.
The war in which we fought is far from over. We live our lives in hiding. The galactic government considers us terrorists. It's unwise of me to share these details, but I've become inebriated. The guest list at this wedding includes 17 of the Federation's most wanted. We have committed numerous atrocities in the name of freedom.
In a mock BuzzFeed article written during the hiatus promo, it states that Rick Sanchez was originally on the side of the Galactic Federation, but eventually became a rebel. It also states that others in the Federation had mixed feelings about Rick, some saying he was heartless, and others thanking him for saving their lives. It seems unlikely that the Rick we know would take part on the side of the bureaucrats he hates. Some speculate that their actions caused Rick to switch sides, and is also a major factor in his obvious mental illness. This would also explain why he's considered wanted, with his most heinous reason being treason. Others, however, believe that Rick was more than a run-of-the-mill member that changed their mind. Some believe that Rick was an important part in the creation of the Galactic Federation, or even the sole creator, and later abandoned it when it became too powerful and ignored his vision. If Rick reacted as strongly to this change as he did to the Pirates of the Pancreas, it makes sense that he would not only rebel against the Federation, but also plot to bring it down. If Rick was in fact on the side of the Galactic Federation, or part of its creation, could Rick have been a hero in the beginning? Perhaps he had dreams of bringing the universe together for the better, but realized it was impossible and changed to a rebellious criminal. Of course, he could have been on the Federation's side thanks to a draft, or as a plot to aid the rebellion. Hopefully in the new season, we will learn more about Rick's involvement with the Federation. Though it has been brought down, some members may still be wandering Earth, which will help reveal Rick's role. At the very least, maybe we will get a look into Rick's past in general. Number 14. Smart Summer.
You have dropped so many balls, man. Do you ever get scared Grandpa Rick might make me his new sidekick?
What? What kind of monster are you?
A competent one?
Throughout the first 2 seasons, viewers have theorized that Morty will become a genius like Rick, despite the fact he isn't very bright right now. Viewers think through learning or even seeds, Morty will become as smart as Rick, and therefore just as afflicted. After episode 301, however, viewers have shifted their attention to Summer. While Summer has had her own plot points and forced herself into a few adventures, she isn't a big part of the show like Morty. In this episode, that quickly changed. She seems to be the only one willing to stand up to the Galactic Federation's oppressive ruling. This is similar to Rick's rebellious efforts, and Summer even states,
Grandpa Rick wouldn't put up with this.
While Morty seems to sit back and accept what's happening, Summer goes on a full adventure to break Rick out of prison. She clearly didn't succeed, but she did display the same quick-witted thinking that Rick often does. Another detail that fans have focused on are the flies in the garage. In a fit of energy, Summer speculates that the flies can be arranged to access Rick's labs and weapons. She moves them around before abandoning the idea to argue with Morty.
And we can go break him out of prison. Look at these flies. Maybe if we arrange them in a certain order, it plays a hologram, or it opens a secret door.
Summer, you're freaking me out. I know things have changed a lot, and I know you miss Rick, but getting him back wouldn't make things better. And, we're not doing so bad.
We're miserable, Morty.
Once Rick is back home, he goes into the garage and arranges the flies to access his lab and weapons, just as Summer had suspected.
What the f? Not cool, Jerry. The man's garage is his castle.
While this could have been a throwaway joke, many fans think it's a hint that Summer is more like Rick and will follow in his footsteps. Rick tells Morty that their new adventure will include his sister and sometimes his mom. Summer makes it clear that she sees Rick as a hero. In the season 3 trailer, a monstrous alien crawls towards Summer and begs her to end his suffering. Without hesitation, remorse, or any emotion at all, she says,
Okay, but not because you told me to.
Getting darker.
This shows that Summer may also be on the road to adopting Rick's sociopathic tendencies, to a point that even surprises him. Of course, with the show being titled Rick and Morty, other fans argue that it wouldn't make sense for Summer to inherit Rick's traits. However, there's constant discourse between Rick and Morty, and Rick constantly disputes his ideals and actions while Summer seems to support them. Morty is Rick's right-hand man, and that doesn't mean they have to agree or even be alike. In fact, if Summer does become more like Rick, it would give Morty more material for discourse and make their adventures all the more intense. Perhaps Summer will slowly evolve into a female Rick, tormented by what she's done, but unaffected by what she must do. Number 13. Not Episode 1.
It's a trap! Abort! I'm still in his Shoney's. Repeat, we never left his Shoney's!
Season 3, Episode 1 was originally live streamed, and there was no announcement or even hint that it was coming. Instead, towards the end of the day, the Rick and Morty Twitter shared a link claiming it was the newest episode. Many fans were hesitant as they assumed this was just a clever Rickroll. Some took the chance though and got to see the episode. Eventually, word got around and fans all over the world were taking part in the premiere prank. This theory is more about why the episode was aired and not so much about the contents of the episode. Still, it may give answers to confused fans. Many viewers felt that the episode moved too quickly, that pressing questions were answered in a split second, and that the biggest conflicts of the show were resolved too conveniently. Some claim that this episode was a pre-season wrap-up instead of an actual episode. While there are major plots in Rick and Morty, many episodes have their own stories which explore other timelines, dimensions, and planets. Putting Rick in prison meant that writers would now have to dedicate an entire episode or more to resolving this problem. This would obviously take away from other ideas that could explore more of the vast universe. According to this theory, writers created and aired episode 1 as a way to quickly resolve the issue of Rick being in prison, so that during the rest of the season, which would air later, they could focus on whatever they wanted. This would explain why everything seemed to resolve so conveniently, and would be a good reason to release the episode so much earlier than the rest of the season. Number 12. Interdimensional Cable. This theory covers the entire series, not just season 3. A popular theory that is pretty much accepted as canon is that Rick knows he's a cartoon. Rick has broken the fourth wall countless times, and a shot of his room even seems to show a photo of Dan Harmon on a bulletin board. Thanks to infinite timelines and dimensions, Rick really could be real, a sentient character existing in another timeline. Thanks to interdimensional cable, if Rick is real, he could simply tune into the Adult Swim that we view and catch his whole life displayed for viewers. Perhaps Rick found this out and has since been plotting to take down the creators and his fans. This is why he breaks the fourth wall so often, almost as a gentle warning. On that same note, Rick may have used the cable box, but has not been blatant about his awareness because he thinks that the cancellation of his show would mean the end of his existence. Roiland and Harmon have confirmed that there will be an interdimensional cable number 3, and fans hope that in this episode, Rick will stumble across an episode of his life, or at the very least, Rick's awareness will be further explored in this season. This would be an interesting and unique take on a cartoon, to say the least. Cartoon characters have broken the fourth wall plenty of times, but none of them have hunted after creators or directly seen themselves on TV. Of course, this may be complicated to keep up, as it would expand the already infinite universe of Rick and Morty even more. Still, it would be worth the watch even if it was just one episode. Number 11. Simulation.
Well, what's this? Well, what could this possibly be? Because it looks like you're inside a simulation. Inside a simulation. You're still on the ship.
Ever since the episode M. Night Shyamalan's from season 1, fans have run with the idea that anything and everything could be a simulation. Some theories suggest that after episode 104, Rick was never truly released from the simulation, and everything we've seen since isn't real. This means that Rick never went to prison in the first place, or took down the Galactic Federation. These theorists are just waiting for the episode where Rick is finally released, and we are all crushed to discover it was all a simulation. Other variants of this theory suggest that Rick was released from the simulation, but was put back into it at some point, likely the day of the wedding. Exactly what the Zargonians would gain out of putting Rick in the simulation, but perhaps there is an explanation. If this theory were true, it would explain Morty standing up to Rick more often, and not immediately coming to his aid when he was captured. One issue with all variants of this theory is that often pointed out claims that if this were a simulation, we would not see Summer and Morty's perspectives, because they would be irrelevant to the direct simulation that Rick was in. Of course, this can be easily disputed by the fact that in episode 104, the audience was shown Jerry's experience in the simulation, despite it not being a major plot point for Rick. Viewers are often torn on whether this experience, being a simulation all along, would be rewarding or upsetting. On one hand, Rick would have not actually gone through this much trouble, but any character development could easily be thrown out the window. In addition, a simulation this intricate would mean the Zargonians had access to a number of Rick's secrets. It seems unlikely writers would do something this lazy, even though they apparently get a kick out of disregarding character development. A slap in the face probably isn't their style. Number 10. Tammy knew Rick would escape.
In a lot of ways, what I really am is a deep cover agent for the Galactic Federation, and you guys are a group of wanted criminals, and this entire building is, in a certain sense, surrounded.
A short scene after the end of episode 301 shows Tammy walking into a high-tech lab filled with other galactic agents. She asks if it's ready, and a robotic bird person is revealed.
Is it ready?
Yes, we can bring it online now.
Do it.
I am Phoenix Person.
After a quick dispute on the name, Phoenix Person versus Cyberbird, Tammy latches onto him and they fly away. Many have theorized that Tammy, or the Galactic Federation, knew from the beginning that Rick would escape. According to this theory, they put efforts into reviving Bird Person as a tool in taking Rick's life or preventing his escape. Unfortunately, this theory has been debunked with just a second look at this scene. As the pair fly away, we can see that the area has been destroyed, Buildings have been damaged and the land seems barren. Wherever this is, it's clear that this was after the damage Rick did. This scene is likely a teaser that Tammy has revived Bird Person for revenge, and not as a preventative measure. There are still theories going around about this plot though. Some think that Phoenix Person will be the end of Rick, and others believe Rick will be able to get through to him and use him to his own advantage. Another theory, which is more complex, claims that Bird Person was in on the sting from the beginning, and what happened at the wedding was part of the plan, so he could be brought back as something more powerful. This is obviously debatable, but it would be a heartbreaking turn of events. Fans have come to see Tammy as the most hated character in the series and have felt sympathy for the loss of Bird Person, Rick's only close friend. If Bird Person was against Rick all along, he would join Tammy as a severely hated character. No matter which theory becomes the truth, watching Rick try to take down Bird Person will surely be a tearjerker. Number 9. Rick is insane. Creators have said that the third season of Rick and Morty will have more episodes than previous seasons. Though claims have changed from 14 to 26, it's more likely to be 14 episodes. Still, this is more than ever before, and fans are filled with curiosity about what's to come in these 14 episodes. Though Rick Sanchez, C-137, is considered the smartest man in the galaxy, it's clear he's mentally ill. He is dependent on drinking, has attempted to end his own life, and cares very little for his well-being in general. On top of that, he's often described as a sociopath and displays signs of bipolar disorder, jumping from high-energy manic episodes to careless and withdrawn moments of sadness. With episode 301, all of this was tied together with Rick's insane rant about Szechuan McNugget sauce. Again, this whole rant was a joke, but it does go to show just how much Rick's sanity has declined from when we began the series. We've already had to face issues of mental illness head on when it comes to Rick. Fans that love him have had to watch him suffer without any power in what to do. This theory suggests that this is done on purpose, to make the audience take note of mental illness. Some think that this season will bring us closer to that message by showcasing Rick's mental decline and how his family deals with it. As mentioned before, Rick was involved in the Federation's destructive doings, so he could have PTSD as well, which could be a topic or plot explored later in the series. Don't get too down about it. Knowing Rick and Morty, the show will explore these messages in a funny way that we can enjoy, even if it's a little hard to watch. More importantly, mental health is something important to discuss, and getting viewers so close to a character that is essentially the poster child for unhealthy coping mechanisms is a great way to discuss mental health issues. Sadly, some other variants of this theory claim that the series may end with Rick completely losing his mind, or even his life. Of course, we will all have to tune in and hold back the tears to find out the fate of our misfit grandpa. Number 8. False memory. Perhaps the most important scene in 301 was the memory of when Rick invented the portal gun, or at least that's what fans thought at first. In this scene, Rick shows a younger version of himself, sporting blue pants and a shorter hairstyle. An alternate Rick, or perhaps a Rick from the future, comes to C-137 and explains the portal gun to him, claiming that it would make him the smartest person in the galaxy.
Fortunately, you're about to invent something much more powerful. What?
Rick politely declines the offer and says he is a different kind of Rick. His wife Diane walks into the garage, and Rick tells her he's putting the life of science behind him. To celebrate, they make plans to get ice cream. As Rick waits in the car, the other Rick throws a device through a portal which takes out Diane and a young Beth.
No!
Both the Rick from the memory and the Real-Time Rick break down. Real-Time Rick claims that this event was what ruined his life, and that ever since he has been trying to avenge his family. Seconds later, it is revealed that this memory was completely fabricated, and Rick makes his escape into the body of the agent. fans were finally given a dark backstory for Rick, but seconds later it was ripped away. However, many speculate that there is some truth to this memory, and that comes through in several different theories. Some suggest that Rick C-137, also known as our Rick, was the Rick that came through the portal to throw the device. Both that Rick and our own seem not to care about the consequences of success. Then again, that would mean our Rick was in fact not the smartest or the inventor of the portal gun, which we both know to be true. Another theory suggests that this backstory was completely true, and that this Rick bounced through timelines until he found one without a Rick and took his place. This would explain why he was absent for 20 years, and why he has memories of an infant Morty, which is likely from another timeline. With Rick, it's impossible to tell what's genuine and what isn't. This memory really could have been entirely fabricated, or could have been built off vague facts. The biggest wish of Rick and Morty fans is that in Season 3, we will finally be given more insight into Rick's past, where he was for 20 years, what happened to Beth's mother, and more. Number 7. Mrs. Sanchez. Beth's mother and Rick's ex-wife is perhaps the most vague character of the series. In the pilot episode, Rick makes a comment to Beth saying, "I wish your mom was here." This hints that Mrs. Sanchez is no longer alive, though it is never blatantly stated. In later episodes such as Rick Potion number 9, 203, and The Wedding Squanchers, comments are made about Rick's failed marriage and the fact that he left his family behind. This suggests that even if Mrs. Sanchez is gone, Rick left their marriage before it happened. In episode 301, Rick shares an image of his wife and refers to her as Diane. Of course, this memory was supposedly fabricated, so it's likely that Diane was not Mrs. Sanchez's name, and she didn't look anything like this. In fact, it would make sense that Rick would fabricate something entirely opposite of his wife, as not to ruin the false memory. All of this is to say that viewers know nothing about Rick's wife at this point. For all we know, she could still be alive and just very distant from the family because Rick showed up. It's possible that in Season 3, she will finally make an appearance, or we will be blatantly told about her whereabouts or backstory. It's also likely that if she isn't alive, she could still make a cameo either in a memory or in an alternate timeline. In episode 202, Morty Night Run, while Jerry is at daycare, he meets Paul, Beth's new husband from a timeline where she remarried.
Who's that?
Oh, not us.
Who are you?
Oh, excuse me. Paul Fleischman, Infinite Timelines, and some of them Beth remarries.
Jeez.
Don't worry, I treat Beth very well, and I do not overstep my bounds with Morty. Every kid needs a dad, but there's no replacing you.
Though there's only one new husband here, it shows how vast the universe is, and that not every timeline follows the same series of events, no matter how small. This means that there are timelines where Mrs. Sanchez is still alive. In fact, there's possibly even timelines where the couple are still married. Rick could come across her while traveling through timelines, or even see her on interdimensional cable. The possibilities are truly endless with this show, and everyone's eager to see the mysterious Mrs. Sanchez for real. Number 6. Time travel. It's clear that in the world of Rick and Morty, time travel is possible. In the pilot episode, Rick explains that he traveled to the future to get a healing serum for Morty's broken legs.
What just happened there is, I went into a future dimension with such advanced medicine that they had broken leg serum at every corner drugstore.
It's possible that the Rick that traveled back in the fabricated memory was from the future, and there's even a box in Rick's garage labeled time travel stuff. Creators have said that they will not explore storylines that involve time travel because it seems overdone and too complex. With so many timelines and dimensions, the show can often become confusing or leave too much room for speculation. However, fans like the idea of Rick and Morty traveling through time. This could take them to historical events in which they could completely alter their timeline. Mostly, fans see time travel as an opportunity for Rick's backstory to be revealed without compromising his character by making him open up. Since time travel is clearly possible and fans are yearning for it, it could happen in Season 3. Creators haven't been champs at fan service. In fact, With episode 301, they seem to completely ignore and debunk fan desires in a joking way. Still, the possibility is there, and we might be lucky enough to see Rick and Morty explore time, even if it's just for a scene or two. Number 5. Prank episode. Another theory about episode 301 and why things happen so quickly and were fixed so easily is that this episode was a prank. Many viewers claim that the way Rick behaves throughout this episode is out of character. While he is still the laid-back, quick-thinking, evil genius we all love, he doesn't seem as involved in the events that unravel. But that could also be because things move so fast. It also seems odd that creators would put 2 seasons into a character arc that showed Rick truly cared just to throw it all away in the beginning of the 3rd season. From when Rick nearly took his own life in season 2, to saving Morty's life while he says,
"Be good, Morty. Be better than me."
To turning himself in after overhearing Beth's heartache. It doesn't seem likely that he would just laugh it all off and blatantly say he doesn't care about his grandkids. If Rick truly didn't care, he would have been apparent in past episodes. It isn't a surprise that Rick said he didn't care, because that's always been a trait of his. However, many fans believe that he even acts like he doesn't care. Another reason this could have been a prank episode is because of the way it parallels to the end of the pilot episode. This could have just been a fun throwback that the creators added, and many fans loved it, but it also seems to almost parody that first episode. Originally, in his rant, Rick says Rick and Morty 100 years, showing that he cares about having Morty by his side.
Oh, 100 days, Rick and Morty forever, 100 times, over and over. Rick and Morty Adventures.com, www.rickandmorty.com, www.rickandmortyadventures, all 100 years. Every minute, rickandmorty.com.
In this ending, though, he completely disregards the whole family and asserts that he will take 9 more seasons for his McNugget sauce.
Your universe. Your mom wouldn't have accepted me if I came home without you and your sister, so now you know the real reason I rescued you. I just took over the family, Morty, forever. And I'll go out and I'll find some more of that Mulan Szechuan teriyaki dipping sauce, Morty. Because that's what this is all about, Morty. That's my one-armed man. I'm not driven by avenging my dead family, Morty. That was fake. I'm driven by finding that McNugget sauce.
Almost to say that the sauce has replaced Morty as his most important companion. This could just be a joke, and likely it is. Still, many are convinced that this was thrown in to show that this episode was a prank and should not be taken as canon. Creators have not confirmed this. Then again, they haven't denied it, which gives committed fans room to speculate. Number 4. Morty vs. Rick. On the subject of ending Rick, Morty may be his biggest enemy at this point. After taking down the Galactic Federation, destroying the Council of Ricks, and removing Jerry from the household, we are curious to see what Rick's newest everyday obstacle will be. Both in episode 209 and 301, we see that Morty is capable of snapping into fits of rage, in which he usually targets Rick.
Screw you, Rick! I'll purge you too, you old rickety piece of crap! This has been a long time coming! I'm gonna rip your guts out and smear them all over your face! I ain't taking no shit!
Okay, sorry about that.
In episode 301, Rick hands Morty a prop gun as part of his plan. Morty goes through with Rick's plan and aims it at his head.
Drop the gun, Rick!
Morty, I know you're too stupid to get this, but you're really f***ing this up right
Just
now.
a few seconds after this, it's revealed that Morty didn't see the note Rick left. This means that Morty was not aware of the plan. His outbursts and actions were genuine, and had the prop been real, Rick would have been ended right there. Viewers assume that in season 3, we will see more of this repressed rage from Morty, and he will make several more attempts on Rick's life. On that same note, many believe that the series will end in Morty finally being the end of Rick, thus bringing their adventures and Rick's reign of hilarious and touching tyranny to an end. There's no way we can know how many more seasons of Rick and Morty there will be. When announcing the season 3 date in a live stream, creators Dan Harmon and Justin Roiland both hinted at season 4 by discussing ways to speed up the writing process. Though it hasn't been officially announced, we can assume that Rick and Morty will be renewed for a 4th season. Past that, we don't know when the creators will decide. The show has to come to its end, so we can't know how it will end either. Still, viewers are certain that it will end in some heartbreaking way that makes us sob 10 years down the line when we hear Justin Roiland's voice in anything else. As we have watched this dysfunctional grandfather-grandson duo, we have gotten closer to both characters and their flaws. While it's clear Rick isn't a sweetheart, it's also clear that he cares and feels immense pain. Many viewers hate how hesitant and naggy Morty can be, but we identify with his distaste towards Rick's actions and want to see him receive affection. Watching Morty take him out would be a harsh yet clever and fitting way to end the series. Number 3. 301 was a dream. This kind of theory is present in movies, series, and books of all kinds. It does, however, make some sense. Some speculate that episode 301 was a delusion Rick had while stuck in prison. Just before announcing the new series, Adult Swim shared a YouTube video of Rick essentially talking to himself while chained to the prison wall. This kind of situation and boredom could have easily led a normal person to go crazy. The theory also suggests that it could have been a dream or pre-planned vision Rick experienced, which would also explain why things went so smoothly, quickly, and in Rick's favor. That's not to say that things don't always go in Rick's favor, but this seemed too easy. Those that support this theory believe that episode 302 will show how Rick actually escaped from prison. That episode, which is set to air on July 30th, is titled Rick Mansing the Stone. While this theory would be fascinating to not only prove Rick is losing his mind, but it would also give viewers the chance to watch his escape all over again. Furthermore, in the second escape, he could be saved by Morty, Unity, K. Michael, or a Mr. Meeseeks, as some other theories suggested before the episode aired. Unfortunately, this does seem unlikely. Creators would not dedicate an entire episode to a delusion just to share a different angle of the same escape. It just doesn't make sense logistically. Number 2. Rick's body. This is not a theory, but more of a question. After the fast-paced events in Rick Shank Redemption, or episode 301, viewers are a bit confused about Rick's current body. His original C-137 body was destroyed after he left his consciousness and overtook the Gronflamite agent's body.
Hi, Rick. Bye, Rick.
Before leaving his body, he told the agent that he would have to leave a few things behind because there wasn't enough room for his genius. He leaves behind useless information like his plans to buy a hat. After this, he moves from the agent's body into a SEAL Team Rick's body. From there, via phone, he transfers to the body of an upper-level Rick working with the council. After this, it's unclear if he moves into a body of a main council member or just disguises the body of the upper-level employee. After leaving useless information to move into the agent's body, he makes 2 to 3 more moves, so viewers have questioned what he was forced to leave behind with each move, if anything. While all Ricks are quite genius, Rick C-137 has been described as not only the smartest man in the galaxy, but the smartest Rick as well. This means, although he was moving into other Rick bodies, he may have had to leave behind information since they're not as smart as him. Of course, it could have been more useless information, like all the words to Hotel California or the recipe to garlic dipping sauce, but with that many moves, we must question when he had to give up something important, and especially what he would even dream as important. Furthermore, once back home, will Rick remain in this anonymous body, recreate his own, or move into a younger version of himself, such as in the Tiny Rick episode?
Is anybody listening? Can anyone understand? Stop looking at me like that and actually help me. Help me. Help me. Tiny Rick! Everybody!
As teasers have proved, Rick literally turns himself into a pickle in episode 303, Pickle Rick, which is set to air August 6th.
Turn myself into a pickle, Morty! Boom! Big reveal, I'm a pickle. What do you think about that? I turned myself into a pickle! I'm Pickle Rick!
This episode may lend some information on Rick's plans for his body, as he can clearly move from body to body to pickle with ease. Before we get to number 1, my name is Chills and I hope you're enjoying the video so far. If you've ever been curious as to what I look like in real life, then follow me on Instagram at DylanIsChillinYT with underscores instead of spaces. I also have a Twitter at YT_chills where I post video updates. I'd really appreciate it if you followed me, and feel free to send me a DM if you have any questions or suggestions. If you'd like to see more of these videos in the future, then hit that subscribe button because we upload new countdowns every Tuesday and Saturday. Number 1. Every theory is true. The biggest plot point of Rick and Morty is that there are infinite timelines and dimensions. Even when discussing all the Ricks, the council uses a finite curve to narrow it down, as infinite is literally impossible to calculate or keep track of. Traveling through dimensions and their infinite existence also means that the real world we live in, the universe Rick lives in, and even the universe of The Simpsons are all real and accessible. Both of these facts mean that every theory is true, every theory created by fans, and every variant of those theories are true in at least one timeline or dimension. Of course, we don't have portal guns, so we have to stick with what the creators from this timeline and dimension provide us. But if you're particularly hurt to know that Unity is not Beth's mother, just know that somewhere in the infinite existence of timelines and dimensions, she is. Well, this can be overwhelming and hard to keep up with. It makes the show feel real to fans, which brings us even closer to the characters and stories. Don't forget to watch the new episodes of Rick and Morty Season 3, which air on Adult Swim Sundays at 10:30 p.m. Thanks for checking out this video. Be sure to subscribe because we upload new countdowns every Tuesday and Saturday. Or if you're still not convinced, here are some of our other videos that I think you'd like. Enjoy!